Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is Paul. This will be the third installment, part 3, of the AML GP60 review. I've done the install of the Blunami, changed out some of the lighting to warm lights, and you'll see those in a minute. So I wanted to take a few minutes here just to review what I found when looking at this engine. On the outside, you know, the paint job looks to be pretty good. It appears to be missing maybe some nameplate information that would be found on the sill, like a little sticker that would, you know, have the manufacturing information on it. You know, anything else regarding safety or things to that nature don't appear on here, but you know, for the most part, the paint job looks to be spot on. The orange looks good. I compared it to my Aristocraft GP40, and believe it or not, this looks a lot better. The Aristocraft unit, the orange looks a lot more red than it does orange compared to this one. So that was very nice. One of the things I found, obviously, is that this did have knuckle couplers. Here they are right here. Very similar to the design that is used currently by USA Trains. And when I looked at the coupler, it, you know, when it was installed, it was sticking way out, you know, probably you know, another ½ inch out beyond where this KD coupler that I've installed is currently sitting. And it was sitting too high. It would not mate up with any of my current rolling stock. So I was able to turn the unit over. This was mounted to a steel plate that had 3 screws that would allow you to move it in or out to adjust the exposure of the coupler on the engine. So I moved it all the way back, mounted this 907 coupler, and added about 100 thousandths of washers, plastic washers, to bush this down, and it works pretty well now. It matches up pretty well with cars that are trailing behind, and I'll show you. Here's some Aristocraft couplers on my coal cars, mating up with the 907, and then they look pretty good. So I'm happy with that. So the original coupler I'm not obviously going to use. The detail on the front of the engine is nice. I did not change out the lights for the ditch lights. That would have been a little bit difficult, so I left them the way they are. They're really bright, and that's okay. I'll get used to it. One of the things that I noted on the first video is that the railings needed to be cut and bent to fit into the cab, which I've completed, and they look pretty good. I've glued in the metal awnings that are above the cab window, and if I turn on the cab lighting, which I'll do right now, you'll see that, and the light flickers on the camera, but it's not flickering in real life. You guys know that, the reasons why. But I did take and I painted the interior cab, painted the walls green, which is what a lot of my diesels have in their cabs that are green. And I painted the chairs, you know, gave it some coloration in there, and I'll have a cab figure arriving tomorrow from USA Trains. I think theirs will fit in here much better than the old Aristocraft ones that were just too big to fit in the seats here. So I'll include that in a following video. I'll show you that driver installed in the unit. I did add a beacon light. Obviously they had a molded in piece, and I cut that off with a Dremel tool and used this 3mm flashing light that I had from Evans Trains and installed that. That looks good. I have a a clear dome coming from USA Trains as well that they use on their SD40-2. That should fit over that, and I'll complete that hopefully tomorrow, that I can show you on a future video when those two pieces arrive. I also changed the headlight lights. I changed the lights on the headlight, and you can see that they're now a warm white instead of a cool white. If I look again, I can now turn on the ditch lights as well individually. All these changes were made by wiring all these lights into the Blunami independently of the AML ESU motherboard, which I could not use at all. You know, it's unfortunate that all of that engineering and money went into developing an ESU board, which really does not make it non-proprietary like Aristocraft and Bachmann have done. You pretty much have to plug in an ESU board if you want to take advantage of the functions with
7.2, no defects.
If you want to take advantage of the ESU board with a decoder. I'm surprised that cam chatter was on because it's off on my phone, so I apologize. So the bottom line is, if you can find an ESU board and have the sound file loaded to this unit, you'll be able to take full advantage of the motherboard, which obviously it allows you to switch back and forth between the rail and battery, which I was hoping to be able to do, and run this with battery power as well. But since I basically had to chop all of the wires off the board that I was going to wire up to the Blunami, I will not be able to use battery with this unit, and that's unfortunate. So if I had one piece of advice to AML, I would recommend that maybe they get with ESU to review and revise the dummy plug, and either come up with a new DCC interface board that can plug into their motherboard so that you can easily wire into a third-party sound system like RailPro, or in this case Soundtracks. That would make it more advantageous for the modeler to take full advantage of the electronics that are in here. But as I said, I was able to take the lighting effects and wire those all in to the ESU into the Soundtracks Blunami decoder directly. So I was able to take care of that. And one other note that I have on the internals of this engine is that again, there was no wiring diagram present with the unit. So when you're looking at the rail pickups and the motors, the motor wires in the engine, they're gray and black, right? So I was assuming that black goes to black and gray goes to gray when you're looking at rail hookups and motor leads. I was wrong. And the first thing I did is after I hooked up the motor and rail leads to the Blunami, I hooked it up, or I put it on the track, and it basically, you know, I can tell it was creating a short. So I assumed at that point that I had an issue with the way that the rails were hooked up to Blunami, and it's not gray to gray and black to black. It was gray to black and black to gray, depending upon the right and left side. And again, if AML would have included a wiring diagram, that would have helped. They had marker tape on the wires inside the locomotive, but they only say rail and motor. They don't say right or left. I mean, that would be helpful if that had that noted as well. So I reversed the motors, the rail inputs, and I got the unit to run on rollers. The next thing I found, I brought the engine to our club layout yesterday, and I was unable to pull any cars with the engine running. Come to find out, the motor blocks were running in reverse of each other. So when I took it home, I had to do the same thing. I had to reverse one of the motor blocks leads to swap them around and connect with the Blunami board in the opposite direction of the way I had it originally, and then that fixed the issue. And so now both motor blocks run in the right direction. And you'll see now that, you know, once I do run this on the layout, you'll see that it's running perfectly fine and pulling a bunch of cars and a caboose behind it. So overall, I like this engine. I think the fidelity of the look of it is very good. The paint job is okay. It could be a little bit, like I said, a little bit better in spots where some of the paint is not crisp, but you know it's not bad for a first time. Some of the details with, like, the rails, the couplers that didn't match, you know, that it's a nuisance kind of thing that I don't really expect to see right out of the box, but it was easily fixed. The lighting, I changed that around to my preference. I don't like to see the cool white, you know, like the blue lights all the way around the engine. It just didn't look realistic to me. I added, like I said, the warm white to the cab and to the front headlights, and like I'll put an engineering or a cab figure in there too as well that was not with the engine. So, you know, I got it the way I think I'm going to have it to the way I like it once I get the remaining couple of parts coming in tomorrow. So why don't we take a few minutes now and we'll run this engine around the layout and you can see it in action. So we'll start this up. And again, I'm on my Blunami, and it's kind of tough to focus in. I understand that. Here we go. So let's turn the mute off and start it up. We'll turn the lights on. So there's the headlight. Number boards. Those also are the cool white lights, and they are chips on that internal board in the cab of the engine that I didn't want to replace because, like I said, they were chips. They weren't bulbs, so I had to leave them the way they were without destroying the board. Turn the beacon on, cab lighting, and the ditch lights. Just so that you can see, I'll turn on the grade crossing whistle or horn. And I was able to wire those in to the Blunami as well and get the resulting flashing by changing the settings right on the phone. So it was really easy to do. I'll also turn on the cab chatter. So let's go ahead and roll this out. And we'll see how it runs on the layout. So it's pulling about eight cars and a caboose at this particular point, but I believe it should pull, you know, a lot more than that. I'll test that out at a later date. taking it up to speed, step 50. We'll bring it back around to where I'm standing on the layout here, and we'll run it in reverse, and you can see the reverse lights too as well. So now I'll take and run this in reverse for a little bit so you can see how it runs backwards. There's the lighting. Runs very smooth. So in conclusion, I'm pleased with the engine. Now that I've got it rewired to run with either DCC or just strict DC power through the use of the Blunami. You know, a little bit discouraged that I can't, you know, run this with battery. At least not at this particular point. Maybe I can try to work on putting some kind of a switch in to allow me to do that, but as long as I can run it on straight DC or DCC, I'm happy. The lighting looks better to me at this particular point. Looks more pleasing to the eye. The only thing that I really wish we could have had the opportunity to take advantage of is that the ESU board, the motherboard, and without having any kind of a DCC interface that allows you to wire into in this case a Blunami, or like I said, a Rail Pro system, you really can't take advantage of the functionality regarding rail power or battery power. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. But all in all, I'm happy with it. I just hope that AML will take a look at improving their electronics a little bit so that it gives the user a little bit more flexibility with the functionality that they're intending. So with that, I appreciate you folks tuning in, and I will follow this up. I'll probably follow this up with a short video once I get the remaining components, the clear globe for the beacon and the cab figure. I'll include that in a follow-up in the next few days. That's it for now. Thanks. I appreciate your time.